السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My name is Ahmed, and I'm very happy to welcome you back to another episode of Quran Weekly, where I read the Quran in Arabic but discuss it in English. It's been a month since I've uploaded these videos. I didn't really plan on taking a break, but things happened. My mental health kind of struggled a bit. And here we are. I guess it wasn't really planned, but it was very much needed. So I'm happy to be back and continue my journey along the Quran. Maybe to those who are seeing this video for the first time, let me explain that I am not a Quranic scholar. I haven't studied the Quran. In fact, this is my first read through of the Quran for some parts of it. Some parts of it I know. And I'm merely undergoing this journey to learn and educate myself about what's in the Quran. And so I'm going to share my thoughts, my opinions, but by all means, I'm not an absolute authority. So if you have a different perspective, if you see something different, or if you disagree with something that I've said, please let me know, and I will happily learn from you. This is the whole point of this is education. Before we get into the verses, I must explain. We must always start with "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim," which means I seek refuge from God from the devil, and in the name of God, who's most merciful and whose mercy is most encompassing. We're going back into Surah At-Tawbah, which has some of the more challenging verses that I've seen in the Quran thus far, and is the only chapter in the Quran that begins without Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. But nonetheless, I'm doing it out of habit and out of respect. And to kind of set the scene, a month ago, the last episode that we covered was talking about the wartime after. It wasn't during the persecution of the Muslims in Quraysh. It was after they had come back to Mecca, after they had opened Mecca again, and so they had established their base. But then began their journey and their quest to spread the message, and the hostility of their neighbors started coming against them. So we know there's a lot of different religions. There was also the polytheists. So there was this is the moment where the word of God was being challenged in terms of how can it be spread, and the request from God and from the Prophet was that you had to, devote your lives, devote yourselves, devote your wealth to the cause of Allah, to the cause of God, so you can spread the word. Although amongst the Arabs, some of them had asked the Prophet we can't fight, this is too much for us, this is not well, and the Prophet had granted them leave. And then we see a couple of verses that mention, so may God forgive you, or God will forgive you. Why did you grant leave to them until it had been made clear who was telling the truth and who was telling the lies? And how do we tell the difference between those who are telling the truth and telling the lies? The ones who really believe in God and really wholeheartedly with all their hearts, they would not ask you for permission to not fight. They would not ask you, no, please let us back. So here we kind of see a separation between the two groups. One is the believers and one is the non-believers within the Arabs and within the population that the Prophet Muhammad was living amongst. So there's almost kind of like two different groups, and that is where we set the scene. Cool. I think we're off to we're back into it. So here we go. We're starting from verse 46.
ولو أرادوا الخروج لأعدوا له عدة ولكن كره الله بعاثهم فثبطهم وقيل اقعدوا مع القاعدين.
Okay, so here it's talking again about those people that not deserted but also didn't believe and didn't want to fight. And if they had wished to go forth, then they would have prepared for it some preparation. So if they really planned on coming with you to fight and to strive in the way of God, then they would have prepared. And this is more evidence to suggest how you separate those who really believe and really have an issue or versus those who did not. But God disliked them being sent. So he made them lag behind. So he made them stay behind and, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this. Let me see if I can get out of it. And it was said to them, and this is kind of a very interesting phrase, sit with those who sit. So sit with those helpless and remain behind. Yes, stay seated. Like it's a very, you know what? No, we don't want you to come. God doesn't want them to come, and it was made apparent through these verses. So if we carry on,
لو خرجوا فيكم ما زادوكم إلا خبالا ولأوضعوا خلالكم يبغونكم الفتنة وفيكم سماعون لهم والله عليم بالظالمين.
okay. So here it gives us a bit more of an understanding of why God, made them lag behind. If they had gone forth with you, they would not have increased you, except in confusion. And they would have been, and they would have been active amongst you, seeking dissension. So they would be actively trying to stop you. If they had gone with the Prophet and his troops, they would have created chaos. They would have created, confusion. They would have created dissension, and some of the people amongst the Prophet who do believe and do want to strive and do want to fight would have actually listened to them, because you don't necessarily expect your brethren to betray you, your brethren to be having different motivation to you. They said that they believe in God, so you would trust them. And here it's saying that being amongst the disbelievers is worse for the troops. And this is the time of the Prophet, so this is talking about a specific moment in time, but there is a lesson to be gained in here. And there is a grander lesson, and I think this is the lesson that we can all learn from. Be careful who you're with. Even the people that you believe in, even the people that that are closest to you, might not have the same intentions, might have different values, different prospects, and might hinder you in the way that you would like. So even if you are a believer, even if you are trying to do good, if you're around the wrong people, you are consistently putting yourself in a trap to be affected by them. So there's a wider lesson there. And God is all-knowing of the wrongdoers. Again, we see God's all-knowing ability, and we see more of it as we move along.
لقد ابتغوا الفتنة من قبل وقلبوا لك الأمور حتى جاء الحق وظهر أمر الله وهم كارهون.
Okay, so here we see they had they had sought, they had spread discord, dissension from before, and they had upset for you many matters until it came clear the truth. So again, you're thinking about people. They're not actively opposing you. They're telling you that they're with you, but then they do things in the background and they make things bad, and they kind of. And after the truth had become manifest, it was a period. The truth came apparent because of an order of God. And became manifest the order of God. The order of God has become clear, while they disliked it. So at some point they were always pulling behind the strings and kind of they had the safety of being hidden, but then through God's command they were revealed. And of course that they hated this, and it became to dismay. So it's kind of really showing you that, even specifically when it comes to right and wrong and spreading the word of God, it's not just your enemies that are the problem. It's also the ones that call themselves your allies, and to be alert.
ومنهم من يقول ائذن لي ولا تفتني ألا في الفتنة سقطوا وإن جهنم لمحيطة بالكافرين.
Okay. Okay. The browser is having. Is it going to have it again? No, we're fine. All right. And from them and among them are those who say, grant me leave and do not put me to trial, test me, expose me to temptation. So there's a variety of words. Tested me, like a trial is you're given you have to try this, or you're given something alluring, something exciting, and then it kind of pulls you to it. And it's very interesting that this specific word is used, because then the next phrase is, surely they're already in the trial. They've already failed their trial. They've already fallen into temptation. They were given the test and they've already failed. So they're telling the Prophet, oh, don't test us, don't tempt us. We don't do this to us. Where they're already there. They had already fallen to temptation. They're already gone beyond it. So, for me, I understand this is also another indication for those that are not truly believing, and a description of what their current state is, and a description of their future. Indeed, hell is لَمُحِيطَةٌ بِالْكَافِرِينَ. It's like it surely surrounds them. It surrounds them, and I like muhit is also the ocean, because it's the ocean surrounds the earth, kind of in a way. So it's kind of like it's just the vastness, and they're trapped in it, and they will be surrounded by it. So it's a shame, but this is saying which direction that they're heading in.
إن تصبك حسنة تسؤهم وإن تصبك مصيبة يقولوا قد أخذنا أمرنا من قبل ويتولوا وهم فرحون.
So here we see again just the level of how much these are not your allies. If a good deed befalls you, then it distresses them. They're like, oh, something good's happened to him. They really, actively and clearly, they are your enemies, but they're pretending to be your allies. And it's not even, like, even a neutral person on the street, if something good happens to you, they'll be like, oh, good for you. Like, they don't want any good to happen to you. They are your enemies. They are your adversaries. They're just claiming to be otherwise. And if it befalls you a calamity, if something terrible befalls you, they say, verily we took our matter from before. So like we prepared ourselves, we took precaution in advance, and then they turn away and they're like, yeah, you've fallen, you've hurt yourself. And unfortunately, like I don't know if you can relate, but I've definitely had friends that had these type of contentions where it's just, they're not your friends, and they really are your enemies. A wolf in sheep's clothing is the image that comes to my mind.
قل لن يصيبنا إلا ما كتب الله لنا هو مولانا وعلى الله فليتوكل المؤمنون.
So, what do you do in these type of situations? What do you do when you have people rooting for your downfall, people lying to you, and people kind of your friends or people who claim to be believers, and they're not moving forward? They're not doing what they say that they are. Say, and again, this is to the Prophet, but it also kind of applies to all of us. Nothing will befall us except what God has decreed for us. He is our protector, our Lord, our guardian. He's the decider of what happens to our lives. And on God, let the believers put their trust. Let the believers put their trust as well. Which is a difficult thing to do. I can definitely tell you that when bad things happen to us, it's very hard to have this trust and to have this faith. And specifically when you're being betrayed by the ones closest to you, like it's just hard to trust in God. But that's the lesson that we all have to keep. We all have to put our trust in God. And God, Maulana, is like our protector, but it also is a term used for our reign, our supreme, the one who decides for us.
قل هل تربصون بنا إلا إحدى الحسنيين ونحن نتربص بكم أن يصيبكم الله بعذاب من عنده أو بأيدينا فتربصوا إنا معكم متربصون.
Okay. Say, are you awaiting for us for one of the two best things, victory or martyrdom? So either we win or we die. Like, oh, hey, either way, then it's done. Then the command here is say. So are you waiting for us for either of these things to happen? Well, while we are waiting for you, that God will afflict you with a torment from him or by our hands. So wait indeed with you. So wait indeed, we are with you waiting. So yeah, here's kind of like the standoff between the believers and the non-believers, and the prophet and the non-believers, and saying, are you waiting for us to fall, to either win or die? Well, we're waiting for you to and here in a way it's saying we're waiting for God to decide what to do with you, because sometimes the torment is from him and sometimes the torment is by our hands, as we've seen in the previous verses. Sometimes it is, specifically in this chapter, it was the Muslims' hands that should deliver the punishment for those that were persecuting them. So again, this is the two varieties, and this is what you should say to them once you find out that they're your adversaries. So like, okay, you wait for the outcome, and we will wait with you. And it's not so much a threat; it's so much as you'll see what'll happen to you. You know what I mean? And as a result of your own actions, so to speak.
قل أنفقوا طوعا أو كرها لن يتقبل منكم إنكم كنتم قوما فاسقين.
To paint the picture of how severe this is, say, again to the Prophet, he should tell them, spend willingly or unwillingly, it will never be accepted from you. And spend here is like whether you donate for the cause, whether you strive, whether you start doing the things that you said you were going to do but you aren't doing. Feel free to do whatever you want. Do it or don't do it. And even if you do it and you hate it, it's still not going to be accepted from you. Like these are the way that it's being written here is these people are beyond help. They are beyond salvation. There's no, even if they do the good thing that they don't like, it's not going to save them. Indeed, they are a people that are defiantly disobedient, corrupt, rebellious, ruined.
وما منعهم أن تقبل منهم نفقاتهم إلا أنهم كفروا بالله وبرسوله ولا يأتون الصلاة إلا وهم كسالى ولا ينفقون إلا وهم كارهون.
So it kind of explains a little bit why they're beyond help, and what prevents them that their contributions are accepted. What stops their contributions from being accepted? Except nothing prevents them except that they are disbelieve in God and in His Messenger, and they do not approach prayer except while they are lazy. They're like they drag their feet to it, and they do not spend except while they are unwilling and they hate it. So it's kind of like describing the overall. You disbelieve in God and in His Messenger, even though you say that you are, and you don't approach prayer unless you're lazy, and you don't spend unless you hate it. So like, really, they don't want to do anything. They don't believe in any of it. You're pulling teeth out of them to get them to do these things.
فلا تعجبك أموالهم ولا أولادهم إنما يريد الله ليعذبهم بها في الحياة الدنيا وتزهق أنفسهم وهم كافرون.
Um, yeah, and here's a very interesting verse. So do not let it impress you their wealth nor their children. And this is kind of a human thing when you see that your enemies are prospering or growing. You're like, why are they growing in wealth? Why are they having so many children? And this can be applied to today in case there is certain superpowers that are going unchecked. I won't say any further than that. But God only intends to punish them with it in this life, in this worldly life. Um, and their souls will depart. Okay, and their souls themselves. I think souls makes a lot of sense. And their souls would depart while they are disbelievers. So they are going to die. They're going to leave this worldly plane while they're disbelievers, which kind of paints you the picture of what's going to happen to them. But what I find the most interesting in this is that God intends to punish them with it. Punish them with what? With their wealth and with their children. And I've always believed this. You hear the expression time and time again, money is the root of all evil. And there is a reason for it, because it's almost like a price that you gain with wealth. And there's many prices. There's psychological prices, there's physical prices, there's like so many different, there's taxes, but the problem is the more wealth that you amass that you are not using to purify, and this is why zakah, the purification of money through charity and donations, and paying alms tax is so important, is because wealth has its own burden on the soul. And once you have it, you're like, I want to keep it. How do I keep it? How do I get more? How do I do this? And then your mind becomes consumed with this worldly possession, and you're so focused on it that you miss the bigger picture around you and the ascension and the surrender to a higher power and the ascension from our lower earthly desires to a higher heavenly plane. And I think it's a very beautiful analogy of the two. I think it's an example of telling you, me, everybody, don't let the wealth and children of others impress you, because God can use it to punish people as well, and it becomes a burden upon themselves. How do I save more money? How do I keep my house protected? How do I keep my money? Do I need more money? I need more bank. And it becomes an issue, almost like a disease. And you should really not look at the greener grass on the other side and think that they're having a better life, because it might be the test that they are going to struggle to go with.
ويحلفون بالله إنهم لمنكم وما هم منكم ولكنهم قوم يفرقون.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, but here the first part is pretty straightforward. They swear by God, and this is kind of a very traditional thing, and like usually in Arab culture, specifically now in the Muslim culture everywhere, swearing by God is the highest degree, because technically we believe, not technically, Muslims believe that God is all-knowing and all-seeing. So swearing by God is putting your word to the ultimate test, in a way, to the ultimate verification. God either knows or doesn't. God knows what's happening. So if you're swearing by God, you should take a person's word for it, because if they're lying, they're gonna suffer in eternity. But that's if you believe. If you don't believe and you just say I swear by God as a way to pretend that you believe, then you create discourse. So here God is saying that that's what they do. They swear by God that they are indeed, they're one of you. We swear by God. I'm a believer. I invest. I do all the things, while they are not one of you. And instead, they are a people who are afraid. So they only tell you we swear by God. They only tell you that we are with you because they're afraid. They see the might. And this is, if we look at the time of the Prophet at the time, this was after the Prophet had achieved a few victories, after the Prophet had built a following and had groups of believers standing by him. So it's almost like they're saying these things just to preserve themselves, not to be honest. Which is ironic. They probably would have been treated better had they said that they didn't believe. The problem is that they lied saying that they are believers. And that's where the corruption exists. If they had probably just been one of the people who said, I don't know, I don't understand, and I'm not really looking to convert, then I think it might have been different. But again, speculation. The point being, they swear by God and they're not believers. They're just afraid.
لو يجدون ملجأ أو مغارات أو مدخلا لولوا إليه وهم يجمحون.
Further describing their fear, if they could find a refuge or caves or a place to enter, they surely would have ran to it while they are running wild, rushing as fast as they can. And it really captures the image of the fear that they have. They would just want to get out there as quickly as possible. They want to run. Yeah.
ومنهم من يلمزك في الصدقات فإن أعطوا منها رضوا وإن لم يعطوا منها إذا هم يسخطون.
Okay, and from them are those who criticize you in the charities that you do. So then if they are given to them from the charities, they're like, oh, yes, great, you're giving to us fantastic. Charity is fantastic. We love charity. But if it is not given to them, then all of a sudden they're enraged. They're angry. How does he not? We stand by you. We believe we're the ones. Why aren't you giving it to us? Ba, 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 ba. So they're very critical of how you distribute the position of alms. And again, for me, as much as I have to repeat it, I will, because it's important. This is talking about a specific point in time, but the Quran is timeless, and it does teach us in the future. So one of the things, one of the triggers, one of the warning signs is people, being angry about not getting the charity that you're giving, and, being critical of where you give the charity to. And for me, it paints a picture of two different people, let's just say people. Like the true believer, and I've seen many Muslims in my life. I had the privilege of growing up in a Muslim culture, and there's so much peace, and there's so much contentment, that a person who's at peace and a person who's truly surrendered to God won't have any of these fears, won't have any of these angers. There's a kind of peace that comes with belief that is lacking, and this is what is being shown here. They're angry when they're not given charities, whereas those who truly believe will go like, you don't need to give me anything. God will take care of me when God needs to. And it's a tough thing to have, specifically in this world when we have hunger and we have pain and we have sickness. But the ones who truly believe, they have this peace to them, and those who don't are a little bit less peaceful. And a lot more angry and enraged.
ولو أنهم رضوا ما آتاهم الله ورسوله وقالوا حسبنا الله سيؤتينا الله من فضله ورسوله إلى الله راغبون.
Okay, and further echoing the point that I was just making, and if they had been satisfied with what God had given them and His messenger, then they would have said, God is sufficient for us. God will give us from His bounty and His messenger, and indeed we are to God. We put all of our hopes in God. We turn to God with all of our hopes. And it really showcases the serenity and the peace and the trust of a true believer versus someone who says that they're a believer but that they don't behave in the right way. Great. That was fantastic. That's the end of the verses for today. We're going to stop at 59 because it's the end of the section. So I will continue again next week, inshallah, God willing. And I'm very happy to be back. I have to say, taking a month break made me forget how much I enjoyed this. I really am learning. It's really, when I first started the Quran readings, I was trying to do it for popularity's sake, for trying to grow my channel, for trying to make it happen. But I think that I am firmly settled in my motivation for continuing, and my motivation for continuing is to learn. I don't know why I'm posting it on YouTube at the moment, but I think that at least holds me accountable and gives me something that I feel like is above me and beyond me that I have to kind of commit to. But essentially what I'm trying to say is I'm sorry for being gone for a month. I'm happy to be back. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. I love you. And I will see you guys and girls and people next week. Thank you. مع السلامة. Bye bye.